I remember back in 2012 when I went to my first ever game developers conference in San Francisco. I struck up a conversation with some random business guy, and like any beginner, I said, I'll do anything, absolutely any type of sound you want, I'm game. And even though I didn't really know it at the time, that was a big mistake. So when I told this person that I'll do anything, he thanked me for my time, but I could tell that I lost his interest right then and there. And it wasn't until years later that I found out why he lost interest, and why so many game audio people shoot themselves in the foot over and over again in the same way. What I realized is that the people who want to work with us, the people who hire us, want some degree of specificity in what we do. If we don't get specific, then we'll just blend in with everyone else. If we want to be more unique, or if we want to stand out a little bit more amongst the sea of other composers or sound designers, we want to niche down just a little bit. For example, some video games might need an orchestral-based composer or an anime-inspired sound designer. Different games will need different styles based on whatever the aesthetic of the game is. Now, as a caveat before we go any further, at the very early stages of your career, it's alright to do a little bit of everything and say yes to any gig that lands on your plate. But at the same time, we do want to be thinking of what our strengths are, what we want to do, and what interests us most of all. The ironic thing is the more we narrow our focus, the more work comes our way. But here's the thing about niches before we even continue further. Most people tend to think, erroneously, that they're these tiny little boxes that prevent us from actually doing all the things that we want to do. And we also think that we have to go on some long, mysterious journey to find our niche, to find the perfect thing that only we are meant to do. Thankfully, things are a lot simpler than that. And the mistake a lot of people make when they're thinking about their niche or what they're really even interested in is they look at what's popular. They look at AAA games or Hollywood movies and think, well, that stuff's popular, so I must need to do that too to make any sort of living off of my music or sound. And we think that because we're forcing ourselves to maybe do these things that we're not interested in at all, we'll still be hireable because we're doing something that's popular or needed. But when we force ourselves to do something we really don't care about, we tend to burn out. And the thing is, we won't be able to compete with the people who actually care about doing that style or that thing. And for some proof about this, just think about the people that you look up to. I highly doubt that any of your favorite composers are the ones that you look up and say, wow, they sound just like a worse version of their hero. That's amazing, I love them for that. No, they sound like themselves, and they got to that point by following what interests them most of all. Your style, your niche, your uniqueness is based entirely on what you're curious about and what interests you most of all. You don't necessarily find your niche, you instead pursue what actually interests you, and then the world eventually bends around you and you create your own little niche of just yourself, based on everything that you practice, delve into, and are just curious about. And the things that you're curious about are different than what everyone else is curious about. Just by pursuing those things, you create a niche all on your own. Now I can hear you saying, but Akash, you dollop of vanilla ice cream next to a warm, fresh quintuple chocolate brownie. Should I even really niche at all? If I can do everything, that means everyone can hire me. Now, like I said, yes, at the beginning of your career, feel free to do everything. That's totally fine. You're gonna need to gain experience, find out what your strengths are, and find out what you're personally interested in. And the thing is, as you work on more and more projects, you'll find that the things you thought you'd like will be the things that you actually end up hating, and vice versa. For example, when I started in my career, I thought I would be all music all the time, but over time I got more and more of an interest in the sound design side of things. So with experience and trying stuff out, you'll start to learn where your strengths are and what you'd prefer to do. And most importantly, you'll learn what you're most curious about. But the thing is, at the start of your career, it's still okay to talk about the things that you're most interested in. If I were to go back in time to talk to that person in line at the Game Developers Conference, I might say, yes, I can do a little bit of everything, but here are the styles I'm most interested in. Sure, maybe I can work on any sort of project, but I really like anime-inspired sound design, for example. Even if they weren't looking to hire an anime-inspired sound designer, they might be able to refer me to other people who are. Or maybe when they are working on a project that needs something like that, I might stick out in their brain a little bit better. Because odds are they're meeting thousands of other sound people, it becomes a lot easier to stand out when you're just a little bit more specific, even at the beginning of your career. Now also keep in mind that throughout the entirety of your career, there still will be skills that may not interest you that you still kinda have to learn anyway. For example, maybe you're a sound designer who doesn't really like working with middleware, but that's a pretty common thing in the game industry and you might just have to suck it up and learn it. No! Or for example, if you're a composer and you want to work on big orchestral projects, but don't know how to write sheet music or really make parts for the various parts of an orchestra, you're going to need to learn that. So yes, there will be times where you just need to do the thing, but for the most part, the thing that interests you on a broad level is the thing that's going to make you more unique. Now, a lot of this kind of niche discovery comes from doing work and practicing. And when it comes to sound design, it can kind of be really vague on what to practice, how to practice, and what to even do day to day. It's sometimes even hard to tell if you're improving at all and if you're going down the right path. But if you're interested in becoming a full-time video game sound designer or just want to upgrade your skills, I have an upcoming course coming out called Step-by-Step Sound Design that'll help you with just that. And it'll also help you with what exactly to practice. And that's going to be released in the fall of this year. And unlike my previous courses that were more live, where I guided people through step by step, this one is going to be more self-paced and thus a lot more chill and a lot easier to follow. You can take your time on it and you can go through it as many times as you want. And like I've said before, if you're on the newsletter, then you'll find out when that course is releasing and all the details before anyone else. And if you're not on the newsletter, it becomes a lot easier to miss out. So all you need to do is get on the list in the card up above or in the description down below. And if you join that newsletter, you get 2 free courses that'll help you start getting work in the game industry right away as well. All right, that's it for this one. Thanks so much for watching. Go pet a dog.